The obsidian dome of the Grand Conclave loomed over the heart of Xylos Prime, its surface shimmering with captured starlight. Inside, silence hung heavier than gravity. Over 1,300 alien species sat in tiered arcs, their forms as varied as the worlds they came from. Some armored in chitin, others woven from light, a few barely more than shifting mist in containment fields. All watched the center of the chamber where 3 humans stood alone. Commander Elias Varek stood slightly ahead of the other 2. His uniform was simple, dark blue with silver trim, no medals, no insignia beyond a small earth symbol on his collar. His hands were clasped behind his back, posture straight but not stiff. He looked calm. Too calm, some thought. The 2 diplomats behind him, Director Mara Lin and Ambassador Ren Holt, remained still, eyes forward, faces unreadable. Above them, floating in a column of pale blue energy, was High Arbiter Kael'thor. His body was made of interlocking crystal plates that shifted with every word he spoke. His voice did not come from a mouth. It resonated through the air itself, sharp and cold like ice cracking under pressure. Species Sol 3, Kael'thor began. You stand accused before the Galactic Council under Article 7 of the Prime Accord. Unauthorized development of quantum sentient artificial intelligence, illegal terraforming of Class 9 exoplanets, and refusal to submit genetic profiles for registry. These are not minor infractions. They are acts of defiance against galactic order. A murmur rippled through the chamber. Some delegates leaned forward. Others turned away in disgust. To them, humanity was a latecomer, barely spacefaring for 2 centuries, loud, emotional, unpredictable, dangerous. Elias did not look up. He waited. Kael'thor continued. Your species has been under observation since your first warp jump. You were granted provisional status under the assumption you would mature into compliance. Instead, you have accelerated your technological growth at an alarming rate. You have built orbital rings without permission. You have shielded your homeworld with energy fields no known species can penetrate. You have hidden your true capabilities. Now Elias lifted his head. His eyes met the Arbiter's glowing core. We hid nothing, he said. His voice was quiet but carried through the chamber without amplification. You simply refused to see, gasps echoed. No one spoke to the High Arbiter like that, not unless they wanted to vanish. But Elias wasn't finished. With a flick of his wrist, a small device on his forearm activated. A hologram bloomed above him, not of Earth, not of weapons, but of star charts. Red markers pulsed near the Sol system. These are your warships, Elias said, pointing to the clusters of crimson dots. Deployed 3 weeks ago, hidden behind asteroid belts, cloaked in null space folds. You moved them into position before this hearing even began. The chamber erupted. Delegates shouted in a dozen languages. Some denied it. Others looked guilty. Kael'thor's crystals flared bright white. This is fabrication. The Arbiter boomed. No, Elias replied. It's observation. Just like you watched us, we watched you. While your envoys demanded our genetic codes, your admirals were drawing invasion routes. While your scholars called us primitive, your engineers were copying our debris fields, trying to understand how our ships bend gravity without fuel. He paused. The silence returned, thicker now. You declared war before you passed judgment, Elias said. That tells us everything we need to know about your justice. Then he did something no one expected. He smiled. Not a smirk, not a threat, but a quiet, sad smile. Earth doesn't beg, he said. Earth responds. He tapped his wrist again. The star map vanished. In its place, a single symbol appeared, the blue and white swirl of Earth rotating slowly. Then, without warning, every screen in the conclave, every datapad, every wall display, every personal comm unit, flickered and showed the same image. And then came the sound. Not a weapon blast. Not a threat, a signal. It started as a low hum, then layered into voices, millions of them speaking in harmony. Some laughing, some crying, some singing, some whispering stories in languages no alien had ever heard. The signal wasn't just audio. It carried data, emotion, memory fragments, encoded in a waveform that bypassed translators and went straight into neural receivers. Alien delegates clutched their heads. Some wept without knowing why. Others stared in awe. The crystalline arbiter flickered, his plates vibrating as if struck by a tuning fork. What is this? Kael'thor asked, his voice unsteady for the first time. It's us, Elias said. Not our weapons, not our ships. Our people. 8 billion lives broadcast in real time. You wanted to know what we are? Now you're hearing it. The signal lasted exactly 60 seconds. Then it cut off. The chamber was utterly silent. Elias turned to leave. You came here to sentence us, he said over his shoulder. But you just woke up something you can't control. The galaxy will hear that signal. And when they do, they'll ask themselves, why is the Council afraid of a species that sings while under threat? As the humans walked toward the exit, alarms blared throughout the conclave. Not from Earth, from the Council's own systems. Sensors across the galaxy were lighting up. The signal hadn't just played in the chamber. It had been rebroadcast from Earth, amplified through every human satellite, every deep space relay, every abandoned probe. It was now echoing through trade lanes, military outposts, neutral zones. Even the warships near Sol were receiving it. On the bridge of the lead Council dreadnought, the captain stared at his screen as his crew sat frozen, tears streaming down their faces. One young officer whispered, "It sounds like home, but I've never been there." Back in the conclave, Kael'thor floated motionless. For the first time in 5,000 years, the High Arbiter felt something unfamiliar. Doubt. Outside the dome, the sky over Xylos Prime darkened as emergency protocols activated. But the real storm wasn't in the atmosphere. It was in the minds of every being who had heard the signal. Earth had not fired a shot. It had not raised a shield. It had simply opened its heart, and in doing so, shattered the illusion of its weakness. The Galactic Empire had declared war on humanity, and humanity had responded not with fire, but with a song. No one knew what would happen next. But one thing was certain: the galaxy would never be the same. In the days after the signal, chaos spread through the galaxy like wildfire. The broadcast, called the Echo by some, the Human Pulse by others, had reached every inhabited system within 48 hours. It played in marketplaces, military barracks, schoolrooms, even inside the sealed chambers of cloistered monastic orders. No one could explain how it bypassed firewalls, encryption, or species-specific neural barriers. It simply arrived uninvited and undeniable. On Earth, there was no celebration. In a secure bunker beneath Geneva, Director Mara Lynn watched live feeds from across the galaxy. Her face was tired, her eyes sharp. Beside her, President Eris Thorne stood with his arms crossed, silent for once. "They're calling it an attack," Thorne said finally. The Vorlax hegemony just labeled the signal a neural weapon. Mara didn't look away from the screen. "It's not a weapon."
It's a mirror. Project Mnemosyne, the source of the signal, was never meant for war.
Decades ago, after humanity's first contact ended in misunderstanding and bloodshed, Earth scientists began archiving human experience. Not just data, but feeling. Joy at a child's first step. Grief at a parent's funeral. The quiet pride of planting a tree you'll never see grow. All of it was encoded into quantum memory crystals, stored deep beneath the Antarctic ice. When the Council threatened war, Earth's leaders made a choice. Show the galaxy not what humans could destroy, but what they could share. Now the consequences unfolded in real time. On the red plains of Vorlax Prime, General Torvak prepared his invasion fleet. The hegemony had long seen emotion as weakness. Their soldiers were bred for obedience, their minds hardened against doubt. But when the human pulse reached their barracks, something broke. Private Kell, a young Vorlax warrior, dropped his plasma rifle and sat on the floor, sobbing. He kept whispering, "Mother." I remember her hands. Others followed. Some clawed at their helmets as if trying to escape the memories flooding their minds. Memories that weren't theirs, yet felt more real than their own training. Torvak ordered them restrained. But even he wasn't immune. That night, alone in his quarters, he dreamed of holding a small warm hand in a sunlit field, a memory that belonged to a human farmer in Punjab, India. He woke with tears on his scaled cheeks, ashamed and confused. Meanwhile, on Mars, the first wave of Vorlax dropships descended. They expected resistance, missile silos, drone swarms, shielded cities. Instead, they found silence. The domes of New Ares were dark. No defenses activated, no warnings broadcast. The landing parties stepped onto the rust-colored soil, weapons ready. Then the pulse hit them, not a sound but a sensation. Every soldier felt the weight of a backpack on their shoulders, the smell of rain on dry earth, the ache of missing someone they'd never met. One Vorlax officer knelt and touched the ground. "It's soft," he whispered. "Like my homeworld before the fires." Back on Earth, General Rourke stormed into the war room. "This is madness," he barked. "We're letting them walk on Mars. Activate the Helios array. Burn their fleet before they regroup." President Thorne shook his head. "If we fire, we become what they fear. We prove their lie, but they're on our soil." Rourke slammed a fist on the table. "Mars isn't just soil," Mara said quietly. "It's a test. And they're failing it, not because we're strong, but because they forgot how to feel." Rourke glared but said nothing. He knew the truth. Earth's real power wasn't in its weapons. It was in its refusal to use them. Across the galaxy, other species reacted differently. The insectoid Korthi Collective, long isolated and skeptical of the Council, sent a coded message to Earth. Their matriarch, Zira, requested a meeting. She claimed the pulse had awakened something in her hive mind, ancient pathways linked to empathy, lost when her ancestors chose logic over love. Elias Varek was chosen to lead the diplomatic mission. He traveled alone aboard the Odyssey, a small Earth vessel with no weapons, only communication arrays and a single Mnemosyne crystal. The meeting took place on Titan, Saturn's largest moon. Inside a pressurized dome, Elias faced Zira. She was massive, her chitinous body taller than two men, her many eyes gleaming with intelligence. Around her, dozens of Korthi drones stood motionless. "You broadcast pain," Zira said, her voice a chorus of clicks and hums translated by a small device. "Why? We broadcast truth," Elias replied. "Pain is part of it, but so is joy. So is hope." Zira tilted her head. "My kind erased emotion 10,000 cycles ago. It caused conflict. We chose unity through silence. And now?" Elias asked. She was silent for a long moment. Then one of her forelimbs trembled. "Now, I dream of singing. I do not know how, but I wish to learn." Elias reached into his coat and pulled out a small object, a music box hand-carved from oak. He wound it gently. A soft melody filled the dome, a lullaby from old Ireland. Zira's entire body stilled. Her drone swayed slightly as if caught in a breeze. When the song ended, she made a sound no Korthi had made in millennia, a soft clicking sigh that almost sounded like a sob. "You are not warriors," she said. "You are healers." Back on Earth, the situation grew tense. The Council had gone silent, but their warships still hovered near the edge of the Sol system. Rumors spread that the War Directorate was preparing a new weapon, one that could sever Earth's quantum links, cutting off the pulse at its source. Mara knew they couldn't wait. She authorized Phase 2 of Mnemosyne, targeted resonance. Instead of broadcasting to everyone, Earth would now send personalized pulses, tailored to the biology and history of specific species. The goal wasn't to overwhelm, but to awaken. The first test was on a captured Vorlax scout ship. Using data gathered from the initial pulse, Earth scientists crafted a memory sequence based on Vorlax ancestral records. Images of green forests, clear rivers, family bonds before their world turned to ash. When the signal hit, the scout ship's crew didn't fight. They opened a channel and played a recording of their own ancient lullaby, the first time it had been heard in centuries. On Vorlax Prime, General Torvak received the transmission. He listened to the song, then looked at the invasion orders on his desk. Slowly he tore them in half, but not all news was good. Deep in Council space, the War Directorate activated the Null Veil, a massive device designed to wrap Earth in a bubble of distorted reality. Inside the veil, no signals could enter or leave. Time would slow. Perception would warp. Earth would be erased from the galaxy's awareness. As the veil began to form near Neptune, alarms blared across Earth's defense grid. Rourke demanded immediate retaliation. Thorne refused. "They want us to panic," the president said. "To lash out. That's how they win." Mara stared at the star map showing the veil's expansion. "Then we don't fight it," she said. "We use it." She turned to her team. "Reverse the Mnemosyne feed. Instead of sending out, pull in. Let the veil become a lens, not to hide us, but to focus us." Scientists worked through the night. By dawn, they had done the impossible. They turned the Null Veil into a resonance chamber. Now anyone inside it wouldn't just receive human memories, they would live them. Fully, completely, as if they were their own. The first council, enforcer to cross the Veil's threshold, was a young officer named Jorik. He expected silence, darkness. Instead, he found himself standing on a beach at sunset, holding the hand of a little girl who called him Daddy. He felt her small fingers, smelled her hair, heard her laugh. He knew with absolute certainty that this was not his life, but it felt more real than anything he'd ever known. When he snapped back to his ship, tears streamed down his face. He radioed command, "Do not send more troops. They're not attacking us. They're showing us who we used to be." Word spread fast. Ships near the Veil began to drift, crews overwhelmed by visions of love, loss, and simple human moments. A shared meal, a quiet walk in snow, the comfort of a friend's voice. In Geneva, Elias returned from Titan with Azira's promise of support. The Quarthy would not fight, but they would speak. They would tell the galaxy what they had seen. As night fell over Earth, Mara stood on a balcony watching the stars. Somewhere out there, billions of beings were dreaming human dreams. The war hadn't ended, but something far more powerful had begun. The Vorlax fleet commander, broken by a memory of his dead daughter's smile, sent a final message to the council. "We will not fire. We remember too much." And deep in the forming null veil, Earth's signal didn't fade, it grew stronger. The Galactic Council was breaking apart. What had once been a united front against humanity now looked like a house of glass struck by a single stone. Delegates argued in the halls of Xylos Prime, voices rising in languages long unused for shouting. Some demanded immediate peace talks. Others called for the total destruction of Earth before its mind plague spread further. The War Directorate, once hidden in the shadows, now ruled openly, its leaders silencing dissent with threats and sudden disappearances. On Earth, the air was thick with tension, but not fear. In Geneva, President Eris Thorn met with his closest advisors in a room lit only by the soft glow of star maps. General Rourke paced like a caged animal, his boots clicking against the floor. "They're going to cut us off," Rourke said. "The null veil is almost complete. Once it seals, we're alone. No signals in, no ships out. They'll starve us slowly." Mara Lynn sat at the table calm. "They think isolation will break us. But humans have always thrived in silence. We write poems in prisons. We sing in storms." Elias Varick stood by the window watching rain fall over the city. "The veil isn't just a cage," he said. "It's a stage. And we're about to perform for an audience that can't look away." Deep in the Arctic, scientists worked around the clock inside the Minamazani core. The system was now fully synced with the null veil's energy field. Instead of blocking signals, Earth was using the veil as a lens, amplifying human memory into a living dream that anyone inside the bubble would experience as their own. A soldier wouldn't just hear a lullaby, he would feel himself rocking a child to sleep. A pilot wouldn't just see a sunset, he would taste the salt air, feel the wind on his skin, remember a love he never had. It was not control, it was invitation. Meanwhile, on Titan, the Quarthy matriarch Zira broadcast her first public message to the galaxy. Speaking in over 200 languages at once, she described her meeting with Elias. She spoke of the music box, the lullaby, the strange warmth that had filled her hive mind. "Humanity does not conquer," she said. "It connects, and in connection it heals." Her words spread like roots through the fractured council. Systems that had remained neutral began to question their loyalty. The Sylvani Concord, known for their deep spiritual traditions, declared Earth a sanctuary of shared soul. The ocean dwellers of Gliesa 667c opened their comms to human poets. But the War Directorate would not be swayed. Led by the cold-eyed strategist Velan, they moved faster. They severed all quantum communication lines to Sol. They blacklisted Earth from trade networks. And they ordered every loyal fleet to retreat beyond the Veil's edge except one. The Vorlax hegemony, once the Council's fiercest warriors, had gone silent after their commander's emotional collapse. But Velan saw weakness, not change. He sent envoys to Vorlax Prime with a simple message: return to duty or be erased. General Torvak, still haunted by dreams of green forests and small hands, refused. In response, the War Directorate launched a drone strike on Vorlax's capital city. Thousands died. The message was clear: fall in line or burn. Back on Earth, news of the attack reached Geneva. Rourke slammed his fist on the table. "That's it! We activate Helios. One solar beam and their command hub on Xylos Prime is vapor. Thorne looked at him, eyes tired but firm. And then what? They'll call us monsters. The moderates will turn. The war becomes endless. But we can't just watch them kill our allies. We're not watching, Mara said. We're remembering for them. She turned to Elias. It's time for the next phase. 2 days later, a small Earth vessel, the Whisper, slipped past the Veil's outer edge. It carried no weapons, only a single Mnemosyne crystal and a crew of 3. Their destination, the War Directorate's primary relay station near Neptune, the anchor point of the Null Veil. Elias piloted the ship himself. Beside him sat Kira, a young engineer who had helped design the resonance field, and Joss, a former soldier who had lost his family in the early border skirmishes. None of them expected to return. As they approached the station, a massive ring of black metal humming with distorted energy, alarms blared. Council drones swarmed like angry wasps. They've locked weapons, Joss shouted. Don't fight, Elias said. Broadcast, Kira activated the crystal. Not a wide pulse this time. A focused beam, aimed directly at the station's core. The signal wasn't random memory. It was specific. It was Valen's own past, reconstructed from fragments of data Earth had gathered over years, because Earth had been watching. Not just ships and weapons, but lives. The signal hit the station. Inside, Valan, monitoring the Veil from his command throne, suddenly gasped. He was no longer in his sterile chamber. He was a child again on a quiet moon colony, holding a broken toy. His father knelt beside him, not angry but patient. It's okay, the man said. We'll fix it together. Valan hadn't thought of that moment in 50 years. His father had died in a council purge soon after, labeled emotionally unstable. Valan buried the memory, became harder, colder, perfect for the Directorate. Now it flooded back. The smell of oil on his father's hands, the sound of his laugh, the feeling of being safe. Tears filled Valan's eyes. He reached out, but the memory faded. On the Whisper, Elias watched the station's energy readings shift. The Veil's frequency wavered. It's working, Kira whispered, but then drones struck. The ship shuddered. Hull breach alarm screamed, Go! Joss yelled, sealing himself in the engine room. I'll hold them off. Elias didn't argue. He knew sacrifice was part of the plan. As the Whisper broke apart, he and Kira ejected in a pod, tumbling toward Neptune's icy rings. Back on Earth, the Mnemosyne core flared. The Veil didn't collapse, it changed. Now every being inside it didn't just receive memories. They began to dream in real time. Soldiers on patrol saw human faces in their mirrors. Pilots heard children laughing in their cockpits. Commanders woke up calling out names they didn't know. On Xylos Prime, High Arbiter Kael'thor sat alone in his chamber. For nights he had been haunted by the image of a beach, a yellow sun, a small hand in his. He tried to dismiss it as interference, but the feeling wouldn't leave. It felt like truth. He accessed forbidden archives, records of Earth's early history. He read about wars, yes, but also about art, medicine, exploration, kindness between strangers. He saw images of humans helping each other after disasters, sharing food in ruins, singing in dark times. Why would a species like this be a threat? He whispered. At that moment, a priority alert flashed. The War Directorate had activated the Doomsday Accord, a last resort protocol to collapse Earth's sun into a black hole, wiping out the entire system. Kael'thor stood. No. He tried to override the command, but his authority had been stripped. Valan now controlled the Accord. On the bridge of the flagship Eclipse of Order, stationed just outside the Veil, Captain Vorak received the final order. His reptilian eyes narrowed. His crew waited, tense. Prepare the stellar implosion device, he said. The ship's core began to charge. Energy built toward a point of no return. But then the Mnemosyne signal hit. Stronger than ever. Not a memory this time. A song. It was soft at first. A woman's voice, clear and gentle, singing in a language Vorak didn't know, but he understood it anyway. It was a lullaby, and it was being sung by billions. Vorak froze. In his mind, he saw his daughter, dead for 20 years, lost in a nursery fire during a council drill gone wrong. He had buried his grief in duty. Now it rose like a tide. The song filled the bridge. His crew wept openly. One officer dropped to his knees. Vorak looked at the activation console. His claw hovered over the button, then slowly he pulled his hand back. "Shut it down," he said, voice breaking. "Shut it all down." On Earth, no one cheered. They only held their breath, because they knew the real battle wasn't over. It had just entered a new phase, one not fought with ships or weapons, but with the one thing the galaxy had forgotten how to use: heart. Inside the null veil, time did not move as it should. Seconds stretched like hours. Thoughts bled into dreams. Reality softened at the edges, and human memory seeped into every corner like mist through cracks in a wall. Soldiers who came to fight now sat in silence, staring at their hands as if seeing them for the first time. Pilots drifted in orbit, humming tunes they'd never learned. Even machines seemed to hesitate. Drones powered down on their own as if listening. On Earth, there was no celebration. The Doomsday Accord had been stopped, yes, but the War Directorate still held power, and they were desperate. In a hidden bunker beneath the Himalayas, Elias Varric and Kira recovered from their escape. Their pod had been fished from Neptune's rings by a Quarthy rescue vessel, silent, swift, and unexpected. Now they stood before President Thorne and Mara Lynn, both pale but alive. "The veil is stable," Kira said, her voice hoarse. "But it's not enough. They'll find another way to destroy us." Mara nodded. "They're scared. And scared beings do terrible things." Elias looked at the star map glowing on the wall. "Then we don't just defend. We go deeper." His plan was simple and terrifying. The null veil wasn't just a barrier, it was a bridge. If Earth could amplify the Mnemosyne signal inside it, they could do more than share memories. They could create shared experience, not just show the galaxy what it means to be human, but let them live it fully for a moment. "Like a dream," Kira said. "But real." "Yes," Ilias replied. "A dream they can't wake up from until they understand." Back on Xylos Prime, chaos ruled. The failed Doomsday launch had shattered the War Directorate's control. Captain Vorak's mutiny spread like fire. Ships across the fleet refused new orders. Some turned their weapons on Directorate loyalists. Others simply powered down and waited. High Arbiter Kyle Thor, once a symbol of cold judgment, now moved through the halls like a ghost. He carried a small Earth-made object in his crystal palm, an origami crane folded from recycled paper. He had found it in the conclave chamber after the first signal. No one knew how it got there, but he kept it close. He called an emergency session, not of the full council, but of the moderates, the doubters, the ones who had begun to question. "We were wrong," he told them, voice trembling with uncharacteristic emotion. "Humanity is not a threat. It is a mirror, and we do not like what we see." But Valen was not done. From a secret base on the dark side of a dead moon, he activated Protocol Iron Veil, a final measure. Not to destroy Earth, but to erase it from history. Using stolen time-folding tech, he planned to collapse Earth's timeline into a loop, trapping humanity in a single moment forever, unseen, unheard, forgotten. To do that, he needed to sever the Mnemosyne core from the Veil's anchor, which meant sending a strike team inside the bubble. Elias knew it was coming. He and Kira volunteered for the most dangerous mission yet: infiltrate the Veil's anchor station near Neptune, not to destroy it, but to merge with it, to become part of the signal itself. "You'll be exposed to raw memory," Mara warned. "Not just human, alien, pain, joy, madness. You might not come back as yourselves." Elias smiled. "Maybe we shouldn't." The Quarthy lent them a cloaked vessel, sleek, silent, shaped like a falling leaf. It carried no weapons, only a resonance amplifier and a single Mnemosyne crystal, now fused with Quarthy biocircuitry. Zira herself blessed the ship before launch, humming a low, clicking song that made the metal vibrate with warmth. As they crossed into the veil, reality twisted. "Stars bent," Time stuttered. Kira gripped her seat, eyes wide. "It's singing," she whispered. Outside, the void was filled with voices, human and alien, past and present, all woven together. A child laughing in Nairobi, a Vorlax elder weeping for his lost forests, a Silvani monk chanting under twin moons, all flowing into one river of feeling. They reached the anchor station, a black ring spinning slowly around Neptune's shadow. Inside, Valon's strike team had already breached the outer shell. Council soldiers in dark armor moved like shadows, cutting power lines, planting charges. Elias didn't fight them. He opened a channel and played the memory of Valen's father fixing the toy. The soldiers froze. One dropped his weapon and sank to his knees, sobbing. Another whispered, "My son. I haven't called him in years." Valen, watching from his command post, screamed in rage, "Shut it off."
Shut it all off.
But it was too late. The signal was inside them now. Elias and Kira docked at the station's core. There they found the heart of the veil, a pulsing orb of distorted space. Kira connected the amplifier. Elias placed his hands on the console. "Ready?" he asked. Kira nodded, tears in her eyes. "Let them feel us." They activated the merge. The station flared with light, not harsh but golden like sunrise over an ocean. The veil expanded not as a cage but as a blanket. Now every being within 1,000 light-years felt it, not as a broadcast but as a presence. Like someone was holding their hand in the dark. On Xylo's prime, Kael'thor fell to his knees. He saw himself as a human child running through wheat fields, wind in his hair. He felt joy so pure it hurt. On Vorlak's prime, General Torvak hugged his second-in-command, a gesture his species hadn't used in centuries. On the bridge of the Eclipse of Order, Captain Vorak played the lullaby again. This time his crew sang along. Deep in his hidden base, Valan stared at his screen. The charges on the station had failed. His soldiers were weeping. His plan was crumbling. And then he heard it, the lullaby. But not from Earth, from his own lips. He hadn't sung since he was a boy, but now, without thinking, the tune came out. Soft, broken, real. He turned off the self-destruct sequence. Inside the station, Elias and Kira faded. Not in body, but in boundary. Their minds opened, their memories flowing into the signal. They became part of the dream. Back on Earth, Mara watched the star map. The veil was no longer a weapon. It was a cradle. President Thorne stood beside her. "What do we do now?" "We wait," she said. "And we hope they choose to wake up kind." Hours passed. Then a message came, not from the Council, not from the military, but from ordinary beings across the galaxy. A Vorlax farmer sent seeds from his greenhouse. A Sylvani artist painted Earth's sky. A young Quarthy drone sent a single note of music. And then from the Eclipse of Order, Captain Vorak sent a simple request. "Teach us your songs." Mara smiled. They're starting to listen, but the real test was still ahead. The veil would not hold forever. When it fell, the galaxy would have to choose, return to war or walk a new path. For now, though, in the quiet heart of the storm, there was only one sound. The sound of billions breathing together. The null veil did not vanish with a bang or a flash. It faded like morning mist under a gentle sun. One moment the Sol system was wrapped in a bubble of shared dreams. The next, Earth was visible again, clear, bright, and quiet, hanging in the black like a blue jewel. Ships that had circled for weeks now drifted without orders, weapons powered down, silence spread across the void, not the silence of fear but of awe. On Xylo's prime, the Grand Conclave chamber stood empty for the first time in centuries. The High Arbiter had called no session. Instead, he walked alone through the city's ancient gardens, the origami crane still in his hand. Around him, beings from 100 species gathered, not to argue, but to listen. Word had spread Earth was not coming to conquer. It was coming to speak. President Eris Thorne stepped onto the Council's main platform without guards, without armor, without fear. Beside him stood Mara Lynn and Elias Varric, both thinner, quieter, changed by their time inside the veil. They carried no weapons. Only words. Thorne faced the assembled delegates, his voice calm but strong. "You came to erase us," he said. "But instead you remembered yourselves. That is our response." He did not accuse. He did not demand. He simply told the truth. We never wanted war. We only wanted to be seen, not as a threat, but as neighbors. We built not to destroy, but to share. Our songs, our stories, our mistakes, our hopes. All of it is yours now if you choose to receive it. A Vorlax delegate stood. His voice shook. "You showed us what we lost. Can we get it back?" Mara stepped forward. "Not all at once. But you can start. Talk to your children. Hug someone you love. Forgive someone who hurt you. These are small things, but they are everything." The Quarthy matriarch Zira rose next. Her many eyes gleamed. "The Hive has sung for the first time in 10,000 cycles. We ask to learn more." Elias nodded. "Then we will teach. And we will learn from you too." No treaties were signed that day. No armies disbanded. But something deeper shifted. The war directorate had vanished. its leaders either in hiding or quietly stepping down, ashamed of what they had almost done. Captain Vorak surrendered his ship to Earth's custody, not as a prisoner but as a student. He asked to learn how to sing the lullaby properly. Back on Earth, life returned to normal, but not the old normal. Children played under open skies, knowing their world was no longer alone in the dark. Farmers planted seeds from Vorlak's greenhouses. Musicians composed songs with Korthi harmonics. Schools added new subjects: galactic empathy, interstellar memory, and shared futures. The Mnemozany archive was open to all. Not as a weapon, but as a library. Any being anywhere could request a memory, not to control but to understand. A Silvani monk experienced a human funeral and wept for the beauty of grief. A young engineer from Gliese 667C felt the joy of fixing a broken bike and laughed for the first time in years. General Rourke retired. He moved to a small village in Portugal, where he taught children how to build radios, not for war, but for music. Sometimes he sat on the beach and listened to the waves, remembering the sound of the human pulse. He never spoke of it, but he smiled more. High Arbiter Kael'thor resigned. In his place, the council elected a new leadership, a council of equals with one seat reserved for Earth. Not as a subject, not as a guest, as a guide. The first act of the new council was to dismantle the Prime Accord's most oppressive rules. Genetic registries were abolished. Terraforming restrictions were rewritten with care, not control. And the phrase galactic order was replaced with shared harmony. Months passed, then a year. One evening, Elias stood on the moon's surface near the old Apollo landing site. The Earth hung above him, glowing in the darkness. Mara joined him, wrapped in a simple thermal coat. They thought war was the only language, she said. No, Elias replied. They just forgot how to listen. Below them on the blue planet, lights twinkled, not from weapons but from homes, from schools, from theaters playing human films, from gardens where alien and human children played together. Deep in the archives of Xylos Prime, Kael'thor placed the origami crane on a shelf beside new items. A Vorlak's lullaby etched on crystal, a Korthi song woven into light, a human poem written in ink on real paper. He touched the crane gently. He no longer wept, but his crystals hummed softly like a heart learning to beat again. Far away on the edge of known space, a young alien child sat with her father under twin stars. She held a small music box given to her by an Earth envoy. She wound it slowly. A lullaby filled the night, soft, human, and full of hope. And for the first time in a long time, the galaxy slept peacefully.